Don't eat until the doctor comes. The whisper was so quiet that Nathaniel Brooks almost missed it. Almost. His fork hovered inches above the white porcelain plate as he looked across the candlelit dining room. Ava Bennett stood beside the doorway, an 8-year-old black girl with neat braids, a faded blue sweater, and a small silver bracelet she never took off. Her eyes were fixed on the plate in front of him. Nathaniel, a white billionaire accustomed to private chefs, security teams, and people who rarely questioned his decisions, slowly lowered the fork. "What did you say?" Ava swallowed and stepped closer. "Don't eat it yet, Mr. Brooks." The room seemed to lose its warmth. Beyond the tall windows, rain tapped softly against the glass, while the grandfather clock near the fireplace counted each second with a heavy tick. Nathaniel glanced at his dinner. Everything looked ordinary. Grilled salmon, roasted asparagus, mashed potatoes arranged neatly beside it. His chef had prepared the meal exactly as requested. "Why?" he asked. Ava did not answer immediately. She looked at the plate, then at the place setting, then back at him. That plate wasn't there before. Nathaniel's expression changed. He looked toward Claire Morgan, his longtime executive assistant, who stood near the sideboard with her tablet in hand. "Claire." She checked the table. "All the plates came from the same cabinet." "That's not what I asked," Nathaniel said quietly. Claire hesitated. "I'm not sure." Ava moved another step forward. She did not look frightened. She looked certain. "The plate was different when I came in." Nathaniel studied her. He had met Ava only recently through circumstances he still did not fully understand, but he had already noticed something unusual about her. She paid attention. She noticed things adults ignored. She remembered details other people forgot. Still, this was a serious accusation to make over dinner. "Ava," he said gently, "are you sure?" She nodded. "Yes." Her voice was barely above a whisper. The first plate had the napkin on the right. Nathaniel glanced down. His napkin was on the left. A tiny detail, almost meaningless, yet something about the way. Ava said it made him pause. He reached for the plate, then stopped. Instead, he pushed it several inches away. The porcelain made a soft scraping sound across the polished table. Claire stared at him. "You're actually listening to her?" Nathaniel kept his eyes on Ava. For the moment, Ava looked toward the kitchen. The swinging door was perfectly still. No voices, no footsteps, nothing unusual. Yet she seemed to be waiting for something. Nathaniel noticed her fingers touched the little silver bracelet around her wrist. "What else did you see?" he asked. Ava looked back at him. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. "I don't know if it matters." "Tell me anyway." She took a slow breath. "Someone moved your plate after they looked at your chair." Nathaniel's eyes shifted toward the empty seat at the head of the table. The room suddenly felt much quieter. He looked at the untouched meal, then at the child who had noticed what everyone else had missed. And for the first time that evening, Nathaniel Brooks had no interest in taking another bite. The dining room remained silent after Nathaniel pushed the plate away. Claire Morgan lowered her tablet and stared at him, while the rain continued its soft rhythm against the tall windows. Ava Bennett stood beside the doorway, one hand resting lightly against her silver bracelet. Nathaniel looked from the plate to the little girl. "Claire, did you see anyone move this place setting?" "No," Claire answered. "I was checking the schedule in the study." Nathaniel turned toward the kitchen entrance. "And the staff?" Everyone was preparing dinner. Her voice was calm, but her eyes moved toward Ava. "Except her." Nathaniel noticed the hesitation. "Ava was not preparing anything," he said. "She was watching." Ava nodded. "I was waiting for my dinner." Nathaniel looked surprised. "You were supposed to eat in the kitchen?" "Mrs. Parker said I could sit here tonight." She pointed toward a smaller table near the window. "I was there before everyone came in." Nathaniel leaned back slightly. "Then you saw something." Ava looked at the plate again. "I saw someone bring it." Claire stepped closer. "Who?" Ava thought carefully. "I do not know his name." "What did he look like?" Nathaniel asked. "He was wearing a white jacket." Claire frowned. The kitchen staff all wore white jackets. Ava shook her head. His was different. Nathaniel waited. Ava walked toward the table, stopping several feet away from the plate. The buttons were gold. Claire immediately looked toward the kitchen. "Our kitchen jackets have black buttons." Nathaniel's expression hardened with concentration. It was a tiny detail, but it was specific. He picked up his phone. "Lock the kitchen doors." Claire froze. "Nathaniel, should we really do that because of something a child noticed?" He looked at her. "We are not accusing anyone." We are simply making sure nothing changes until the doctor arrives. Ava watched him quietly. Then she spoke again. There is something else. Nathaniel lowered the phone. What? He looked at your chair. The words settled over the room. Nathaniel glanced at the empty chair at the head of the table. Before he brought the plate? Ava nodded. He looked at the chair first. Claire folded her arms. Maybe he was checking where to put it. Ava shook her head. No. He looked at the name card. Nathaniel's eyes moved to the small card resting beside his glass. His name was printed in dark blue letters. Suddenly, the detail felt less ordinary. He stood and walked around the table without touching the plate. The polished floor reflected the warm chandelier light beneath his shoes. He stopped beside his chair and examined the place setting from above. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. The fork was aligned precisely. The glass was centered. The napkin was folded into a clean rectangle. Nathaniel looked at Ava. What was different before? Ava pointed gently. The napkin was on the other side. Claire came closer and compared the settings. She is right. Nathaniel looked at her. You are certain? Yes. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then a faint sound came from the hallway. A door clicked shut. Ava turned toward it immediately. Nathaniel noticed. What is it? Ava's eyes remained fixed on the hallway. That is the sound I heard before. What sound? She whispered. Someone leaving. The kitchen. The sound from the hallway faded, leaving Nathaniel and Ava staring toward the closed kitchen door. Claire Morgan slowly set her tablet on the sideboard. Nobody should be leaving through that hallway, she said. Nathaniel kept his voice calm. Why not? Because the kitchen staff used the service entrance. That hallway leads toward the private study. Nathaniel looked at Ava. Did you see the person go that way? Ava nodded. Just for a second. Did you see his face? No, she paused. But I saw his shoes. Claire frowned. His shoes. Ava nodded again. They were brown. Nathaniel glanced at the polished floor. That does not narrow it down much. They were wet, Ava said. Wet from the rain. Claire looked toward the tall windows. Rain had been falling steadily for nearly an hour, but the kitchen staff had entered through the covered garage entrance. Nathaniel understood the implication. Someone wearing wet shoes had come in from outside. When did you see him? He asked. Ava looked toward the clock. Before dinner. Nathaniel checked the time. It was 7:18 in the evening. How long before? Maybe 10 minutes. Claire immediately picked up her tablet. I can check the security cameras. Nathaniel nodded. Start with the kitchen entrance. Claire moved toward the study, then stopped. The security monitor is in your office. Nathaniel followed her, but before he left, he looked back at Ava. Stay here. Ava nodded. I will. He paused. And do not touch the plate. I will not. The three of them walked into the private study, where the warm glow of a desk lamp fell across several folders and a large computer monitor. Claire opened the security system. Several camera feeds appeared across the screen. The kitchen entrance showed empty counters and staff moving quietly in the background. Then Claire moved the timeline backward. There, Nathaniel said. A figure appeared near the service entrance. The person wore a white jacket. The image was grainy, but one detail stood out. The jacket had gold buttons. Nathaniel leaned closer. Pause it. Claire froze the frame. The figure stood beside the kitchen door, looking toward the dining room. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of walking toward the table, the person turned his head toward the chair at the head of the table. Nathaniel felt a chill move through the room. Claire whispered, "He was looking at your seat." Nathaniel said nothing. She continued the recording. The figure disappeared from view for several seconds. Then another camera picked him up near the dining room. He placed something on the table and walked away. Nathaniel looked at Claire. Can you zoom in? She enlarged the image. The plate became clearer, but the person's face remained hidden. Then Ava appeared in the doorway. That is him. Nathaniel turned. You are certain? Ava nodded. That is the jacket. She looked at the screen for another moment. Then her expression changed. Wait. Nathaniel stepped aside. Ava pointed at the frozen image. He did not bring the plate from the kitchen. Claire looked carefully. What do you mean? Ava pointed toward the person's hand. He was already holding something. Nathaniel stared at the screen. The person had entered carrying a small folded cloth. He had not brought a plate at all. He had only switched something at the table. Nathaniel looked back toward the dining room. Then where did my original plate go? Nobody answered. A second later, Claire's tablet chimed. She had received a security alert. Nathaniel, she said quietly. Someone just accessed the private study. The security alert appeared on Claire Morgan's tablet before anyone had time to speak. She looked at the screen, then at Nathaniel Brooks. Someone just accessed the private study. Nathaniel's expression tightened. From where? Claire tapped the alert. The system says the access came from inside the house. Ava remained near the doorway, listening carefully. Nathaniel glanced at her. Stay with me. He walked back toward the dining room, and Claire followed. The warm lights still glowed above the table, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The untouched plate remained exactly where Nathaniel had left it. Can the system tell us which door was opened? Nathaniel asked. Claire checked the record. The study door. Nathaniel stopped. We were just in. There. Yes. Claire looked confused. But the alert was triggered less than a minute ago. Nathaniel looked toward the hallway. Then someone may have accessed the room after we left. Ava quietly raised her hand. Nathaniel turned toward her. What is it? The door made a sound. Claire frowned. What sound? A little click. Ava pointed toward the hallway. After we came back here. Nathaniel looked at Claire. Did you hear anything? No, Ava did not argue. She simply watched the hallway. Nathaniel walked to the study entrance and opened the door. The room looked unchanged at first. His desk was still covered with neatly arranged folders. The lamp was still on. The security monitor was still displaying the camera feeds. Then Claire noticed something. Nathaniel. She pointed toward the desk. A folder that had been closed earlier was now open. Nathaniel approached it, but did not touch it. That was not open before. Claire nodded. No. Ava stood several feet behind them. What is inside? Nathaniel looked at the folder. Tomorrow's business meeting. Ava's eyes moved to the desk. Is that important? Nathaniel gave a quiet nod. Very. Claire checked the documents. The final agreement is here. Nathaniel looked at the security monitor. Can someone enter this room without triggering the main alarm? Claire shook her head. Not normally. Then why did the system alert us? Claire studied the screen. Because whoever entered used an authorized access code. Nathaniel's face became still. Whose code? Claire hesitated. I need to check. She opened the access records. Several names appeared. Nathaniel recognized every one of them. His security director. His house manager. Claire herself. Then another name appeared near the bottom. Victoria Hale. Nathaniel stared at it. Victoria had been a trusted business advisor for nearly 6 years. She had also been present at dinner earlier that evening. When was her code used? Nathaniel asked. Claire checked the timestamp. 6 minutes ago. Nathaniel looked toward the dining room. She is still in the house. Ava suddenly spoke. That is the woman who was near the table. Claire turned toward her. Victoria? Ava nodded. She looked at the plate. Nathaniel did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked at the security monitor again. The camera feed from the dining room showed Victoria standing near the sideboard, speaking with another guest. Everything appeared normal. Then Ava pointed at the screen. Wait. Nathaniel leaned closer. Ava's small finger hovered just beneath the monitor. Look at her hand. Victoria was holding a folded white cloth. Nathaniel remembered the image from the earlier recording. The unknown person had been carrying the same kind of cloth. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. That cannot be a coincidence. Nathaniel looked at Ava. The little girl had noticed one small detail after another, and each one had led them closer to an answer. Then the study door behind them clicked shut. The study door clicked shut behind them, and Nathaniel Brooks turned slowly toward it. Claire Morgan checked the handle, then looked at the security monitor. It is locked, she said. Nathaniel glanced at Ava. Did you see anyone come in here? Ava shook her head. No, but someone was here before us. Claire looked around the room. Nothing seemed disturbed except the open folder on Nathaniel's desk. She walked closer without touching it. The agreement is still here. Nathaniel nodded. That means whoever accessed the room was not looking for the entire folder. He looked at the pages. They wanted something specific. Ava stood quietly near the doorway, studying the desk. Maybe they wanted the paper with your name on it. Nathaniel turned toward her. Which paper? Ava pointed to a single sheet near the bottom of the folder. Claire lifted her eyes. That is the signature page. Nathaniel's attention sharpened. Why would someone need that? Claire checked the document. Because the final agreement cannot be completed without your signature. Nathaniel looked toward the security monitor. The rain continued outside, and the room felt unusually still. Then Claire noticed another detail. Nathaniel, look at the camera feed. She pointed toward the dining room. Victoria Hale was no longer near the sideboard. Nathaniel checked the hallway camera. Victoria appeared, walking toward the guest room wing. She was carrying the folded white cloth. Can you track her? Nathaniel asked. Claire switched between cameras. She is heading toward the west hallway. Nathaniel remained calm. Do not confront her. Claire nodded. Then what should we do? Find out why she was using an access code. Ava looked at the monitor. She knows the house. Nathaniel glanced down at her. Yes, she has been here many times. Ava's eyes remained on the screen. Then she knows where everything is. Claire suddenly looked at Nathaniel. And she knows your schedule. Nathaniel said nothing. That was the part that bothered him most. The dinner had been planned privately. His meeting the next morning was confidential. Even the exact time he would sit at the head of the table had been known only to a handful of people. He looked at the security footage again. Claire, pull the camera from the dining room 10 minutes before dinner. She rewound the recording. The kitchen staff moved through the room. A server placed glasses on the table. Another person adjusted the chairs. Then Victoria entered. She stopped beside Nathaniel's chair. She looked down at the name card. She looked toward the kitchen. Then she left. Ava whispered, "That is what I saw." Nathaniel watched the recording again. She did not touch the plate. No, Claire said. But she knew where it would be. Ava suddenly pointed at the screen. Look at the clock. Claire paused the recording. The wall clock showed 6:52 in the evening. Nathaniel checked his phone. The actual time had been 7:02. Claire stared at the screen. The camera timestamp is wrong. Nathaniel frowned. By 10 minutes. Ava nodded. That is why I remembered it differently. Claire opened another camera feed. Its clock showed 7:02. Nathaniel looked between the two screens. Someone changed the timestamp on that camera. Claire's face became serious. That means someone wanted the recording to tell a different story. Nathaniel stepped back from the desk. He looked at Ava, then at the untouched plate waiting in the dining room. The mystery was no longer about a misplaced napkin or a different set of buttons. Someone had planned. Around his routine, someone had entered his private study, and someone had tried to make the evidence look harmless. Nathaniel quietly closed the folder. Call Dr. Daniel Carter. Claire picked up her phone. What should I tell him? Nathaniel looked toward Ava. Tell him we need him here before anyone touches that plate. The call to Dr. Daniel Carter was made at 7:26 in the evening, and Nathaniel Brooks remained in the study while Claire Morgan kept the security records open on her tablet. Ava stood quietly beside the window, watching the rain streak across the glass. Nathaniel looked at her. You noticed all of this before any of us did. Ava lowered her eyes. I just watched. That is more than most people do. Before she could answer, the doorbell sounded through the house. Claire checked the security panel. Dr. Carter is here. Nathaniel nodded. Bring him directly to the dining room. A few minutes later, Daniel Carter entered carrying a black medical bag. He was a calm man in his early 50s, with a steady voice that seemed to lower the tension wherever he went. He looked first at Nathaniel, then at the untouched plate. Nobody has touched it. No, Nathaniel said. Daniel approached the table without disturbing anything. He studied the plate, the utensils, and the surrounding place setting. Then he looked at Ava. You noticed something unusual? Ava nodded. The plate was changed. Daniel glanced at Nathaniel. Before dinner, Claire showed him the security footage. Daniel watched silently as the figure in the white jacket appeared near the table. Then he watched Victoria Hale enter the dining room. His expression remained thoughtful. This is not enough to tell us what happened, he said. But it is enough to justify caution. Nathaniel asked, Can you examine the food? Daniel nodded. I can collect a sample for proper testing, but nobody should taste it. He carefully prepared the sample without describing anything alarming. Ava watched from several feet away. Daniel noticed her bracelet. That is a nice bracelet. Ava touched it gently. My grandmother gave it to me. Daniel smiled. Then she chose well. Nathaniel looked toward the plate. Is there any reason to believe I was specifically targeted? Daniel paused. I cannot answer that yet. Claire placed the access records beside him. We found something else. Victoria's access code was used to enter the study. Daniel looked at the record. Was she authorized to use that room? Nathaniel shook his head. Not tonight. Ava suddenly spoke. She looked at the name card. Nathaniel turned toward her. You remember that? Yes. Claire replayed the dining room footage. Victoria stopped near Nathaniel's chair, looked down, then walked away. Daniel watched the scene twice. That is interesting. Nathaniel looked at him. Why? Because she did not need to know what was on the plate. She only needed to know which plate belonged to you. The room became quiet. Nathaniel looked toward the dining room. So the important detail may not be the food itself. Daniel nodded. It may be the identity of the person who was supposed to receive it. Ava's eyes widened slightly. That is what I was trying to say. Nathaniel looked at her. You were. Claire opened another security record. There is something else. Everyone turned toward her. She looked at the screen, then slowly raised her eyes. Victoria did not enter the study only tonight. Nathaniel stepped closer. How many times? Claire swallowed. 4 times this week. Daniel looked at Nathaniel. Nathaniel stared at the screen. For entries. For separate evenings. For times someone with authorized access had entered his private study without telling him. Then Ava quietly asked, what was she looking for? Nathaniel had no answer. But for the first time, he suspected that the dinner was only the beginning. The house had finally gone quiet, but Elliot could not shake the feeling that the silence was listening. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows of the safe room, and the hallway lights cast thin golden lines across the floor. Maya sat at the kitchen table with her blue notebook open, carefully drawing 3 small stars in the corner of a page. She had been unusually quiet since Detective Fields left. Elliot noticed. He always noticed now. You were thinking about something, he said gently. Maya looked up. I found something. Elliot crossed the room and sat beside her. From between the pages of the notebook, Maya pulled a small photograph she had taken from the envelope that arrived that afternoon. The image was old, faded at the edges, and slightly bent across the middle. Elliot studied it without speaking. It showed his late wife standing beside a younger man outside a hospital. But there was something else in the photograph. A little girl stood several feet behind them. Her hair was braided into 2 neat rows. Around her wrist was a small silver bracelet. Elliot's breath caught. He had seen that bracelet before. Where did you get this? He asked. It was inside the envelope, Maya said. But look at the date. Elliot turned the photograph over. Written in blue ink were 6 words that made his expression change completely. June 14th, 2015. The day Maya was born. He stared at the picture again. That cannot be right. Maya leaned closer. Why? Elliot did not answer immediately. He remembered the hospital records. He remembered being told that his wife had been alone that night. He remembered the nurse who had insisted there were no visitors. Most of all, he remembered the bracelet. It had belonged to his wife. She had once told him she gave it away years before. Maya, he said quietly, where did you see this man? I have never seen him. She pointed to the photograph. But I have seen his car. Elliot looked toward the security monitor. The same black sedan had appeared near the estate twice that week. His stomach tightened. He reached for his phone and called Detective Fields. The detective answered almost immediately. Elliot. Fields, I need you to check something. A hospital photograph from June 14th, 2015. I want every visitor record, every staff record, and every security log connected to my wife's room. There was a pause. Why? Elliot looked at Maya. She was no longer drawing. She was watching him with calm, steady eyes. Because someone may have lied about the night she gave birth. Fields became silent. Then his voice changed. Elliot, send me the photograph. Elliot did. Seconds passed. Then the phone vibrated. 1. Message appeared. Found something. Elliot opened it. The photograph had been digitally matched to an archived hospital image. The man beside his wife was not a stranger. He was a former employee of Elliot's company who had disappeared 9 years earlier. And according to the hospital record, he had signed into the maternity wing exactly 20 minutes before Maya was born. Elliot slowly lowered the phone. Maya looked at him. Does that mean he knows me? Elliot swallowed. It means he may know more about your mother than either of us ever did. Maya closed her notebook and placed her hand over the old photograph. She was not crying. She was thinking. Then we should find out why. Elliot nodded. Outside, the rain continued falling, but something inside the room had changed. The shadows were no longer just watching them. They had finally left a name behind. And for the first time, Elliot understood that the truth they had been chasing might not be about who wanted Maya gone. It might be about why someone had wanted her hidden in the first place.